At least for me, my priority was healing. My priority was making sure that I don't end back up in a situation like that. And not Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where we talk about toxic relationships, narcissism, and emotional healing. In today's episode, you are going to learn what is the meaning of narcissism. So stick around until the end if you want to be able to identify narcissistic traits in the people around you and know what to do once you figure them out. If you're new here, my name is Nailah Abdullah. I'm a therapist and life coach, and I specifically work with women, helping them to heal and move on after toxic or narcissistic relationships. So if that sounds like something you need, take a moment, go ahead and hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell to be notified every time a new episode goes up. If you're looking for further support on this topic or topics along the line, go ahead and go in the description box below to get connected. So the word narcissism and narcissist has become so popular. You hear it everywhere. If someone does something wrong, if they take too many pictures, whatever it is, people find a reason to use this word. However, it does stem from a real source. It's not just something to be thrown around loosely. So around after World War II, a manual came out that are used for mental health professionals in order to diagnose certain mental disorders. And that book is called the DSM, which stands for Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And this is a book right here, just so you can have a glimpse of it. And this is a standard point of reference that mental health professionals use in order to diagnose, in order to all be on the same page when they're diagnosing nationally. It's also used outside of the US. So the DSM has different categories, and one of those categories are personality disorders. And under personality disorders, you have a disorder called narcissistic personality disorder. Now the DSM breaks down these disorders in very simple definitions, and then they also go into giving exact criteria of what someone needs to show in order to be diagnosed. But we won't go that deep here today. We're just going to look at the general definition, which for narcissistic personality disorder means that there is a pattern of grandiosity, and grandiosity is meaning that they believe they are bigger than themselves, almost to some form of delusion, right? A bit of out of touch with reality, that they view themselves in a very pompous, very superior way. There's a lack of empathy, so they're not able to really genuinely feel for others, which means that they can cause pain and not have remorse because they lack the ability to have empathy for others. And there's an extreme need for admiration. Now, of course, as human beings, we all like to be admired to some extent, but with this disorder, there's an extreme need for it. So they will go to far lengths to just be able to get the attention and the admiration that they so desperately need. Now, one important point that I want you to keep in mind is when you hear people using the term narcissism or narcissist, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person that they're calling that term has been diagnosed. And there's a good chance they haven't, because with narcissistic personality disorder, or just having those traits in general, they don't see a need to reflect on themselves. They don't even have the emotional capacity to be able to reflect on themselves to seek help from a professional in order to get diagnosed in the first place. So typically when you hear these terms being used, or even if you identify these traits in other people, it typically means just that you see these traits in someone, but not necessarily that they have been diagnosed with this clinical disorder. So now that we've spoken about what is the meaning of narcissism according to the DSM, let's talk a little bit about what does it look like, right? Because again, we can learn something academically, but when it comes to your personal life, you want to be able to also be able to spot these type of people so you know how to protect yourself. So some of the ways that they can come across is that they have a fragile ego, which means they are not open to any form of criticism, even positive, constructive criticism, right? They interpret that as an attack to them. So they become very defensive. Now, sometimes that can become confusing because on the outside, they can mask that fragile ego and that low self-esteem with confidence. They can come off very cocky, very confident. However, any form of disagreement, any form of criticism, they can become easily offended. One of the most common traits of these type of people is that they are manipulative. They like to control. They like chaos. And they will use different tools to be able to accomplish that. Guilt is a very common tool that they use. What they like to do is they like to invest in you. And that can come across as them being helpful, them being nice. However, it's really an investment with you. It's really setting you up to make you feel obligated to tolerate the real them when they choose to pull the mask down, right? So they are investing in you. They are, being kind to you. In some terms, they call it love bombing. So they're just being extremely nice. However, at some point, you will see a shift. You will see a shift in their behavior, and they will be able, or they will try to guilt trip you into making you feel like, how dare you stand up to me now? How dare you not accept my abuse and my treatment after everything that I've done for you? So that's a very common manipulative tool that they use. And again, it's all because they need control. And they enjoy the chaos and the conflict and those dynamics within toxic relationships. As we spoke about from the DSM definition, there's also an extreme need to feel admired and to get attention. And it's so extreme to the point where they will exaggerate their accomplishments. They will exaggerate their experiences, and to the point where they may even lie about it. And that is something that I even experienced in my experience with toxic relationships, in particular toxic family relationships. And I could not figure out why this family member would lie just for no reason, right? If you say, yeah, I'm taking a flight to Miami today, they'll say, oh, I'm taking a spaceship to, outer space tomorrow. Like, they would come up with these ridiculous, lies and just exaggerate. Even if there's a little bit of truth in it, they will just exaggerate all around it because they just had this absurd need to be admired and to get attention. So that is another sign of narcissistic traits. If you really want to upset someone with narcissistic personality disorder, or again, just someone with the traits, become successful. And I say that because they hate to see other people succeed. They are very envious. Again, because they have a fragile ego, when you are succeeding, or even if you don't view yourself as being successful, if they see characteristics in you that they admire, if they see that you're succeeding, without you even trying, they can hate you. They can become envious. They can become facetious and even vindictive and try to hurt you because they interpret, again, it's somewhat delusional, they interpret your success as an attack on their ego. And there's often the question about, can these people change? From my personal and professional knowledge, there is no cure for these type of people. Now, being on social media, I have seen some people who have said that they are diagnosed with the disorder and they have been in therapy. So there are those select few that will find ways to maybe manage it. However, it is in their nature. These traits, and there's so many more, but we won't go into all of them today or else we'll be here all day. But in general, their traits is natural to them, right? It's kind of like you get a baby snake. Anaconda. I don't know much about snakes, but let's say anaconda because it's big, right? And you think the snake is cute, it hatches, you take care of it from a baby, you think the skin is soft, you want to take care of it, you want to cuddle with it. However, when you lay down with it and it's time to eat, and it gets the instinctual desire to wrap around you and to try to squeeze you to death, you may then get upset with it, right? Because you said, well, I took care of you, I was nice to you, I was loving to you. However, it's in the snake's nature to do that. So it's not that the snake, is bad, but it's in their nature. You can't change it. There's no amount of love that you can give that snake to make it change and not want to squeeze you, because that is in its nature. And that is the same thing with these type of people. And that's one of the reasons people get stuck in relationships with them, is because they feel like, because I understand your condition, that maybe you have narcissistic personality disorder, I understand maybe your childhood, things that you've been through, and I can love you back, to being a good, healthy person. But really, there's no way to change them. And again, some of them, very few, may go for support and go for mental health support and sessions and be able to get diagnosed and find ways to counteract those innate desires that they have. However, it's innate, it's instinctual to them to be this way. One of the important things also to keep in mind is their emotional capacity. If you are a parent, you know what toddlers are like. They are highly emotionally unstable, and they can go from singing and laughing to throwing themselves on the floor and having a full-blown tantrum. Well, that is very similar to people with narcissistic traits. Now, their tantrums may not look like them throwing themselves on the floor, but they can have tantrums and get easily triggered and easily upset and easily offended and want to lash back out and hurt you. Now, you have narcissists who are overt and narcissists who are covert. Overt meaning they're more easy to spot because they are more, maybe more arrogant, maybe more pompous, show, here I am, come and love me, come and admire me. And they're easier to spot. But then you have the covert ones, which personally I find a bit more dangerous because they can present as very humble, as very kind, as very generous. And again, with all that generosity, they're really investing in you. They're really setting you up to accept the abuse that's going to follow up after they've been nice to you. So you have these traits, but they can look different on different people. I've also seen where people with these traits, or possibly disorder, if they were to get diagnosed, that they can be overt with some people and covert with others. Because again, they are highly skilled at being manipulative. So they can look at you and size you up and say, okay, I can be overt with this person, but with that person, I need to be covert in order to really be able to get that control that I want. Because of that other person's personality, I can't be too overt with them because I will push them away. So they also know how to turn it off, on and off. They know how to tweak it depending on the environment that they're in. Now that you have a bit more of an understanding of what is the meaning of narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, now let's talk about what do you need to do once you identify some of these traits. Now, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, is that I don't want you to be rigid about diagnosing someone else, okay? And I say this with so much passion because I see this happening so much. As I said previously, we are in an information era where there's so much information out there. You can read tons and tons of books, videos, anything you want about this topic. And we can even go into more, and we will at some point go into other aspects of this. However, the point is to educate yourself enough to heal. Educate yourself enough to protect yourself. There is no point in having all this information and still being stuck attached to a narcissist or someone with narcissistic traits. If you are still stuck there, if you're still impacted and influenced by them in any way, that means your focus is too much on understanding this personality disorder. If you love to read, if you love to learn, you love to educate yourself, great. But don't forget what the priority is. At least for me, my priority was healing. My priority was making sure that I don't end back up in a situation like that. And not only narcissistic relationships in romantic relationships, but also in family relationships, also in friendships. And as you start to heal, you will actually, as in my situation, you may actually start to see these traits and these patterns in other relationships that you have. So again, it's not just about you don't want to be a smart, educated person and stuck and unhappy. Then what is the point of having all of that information? So the question that you want to ask yourself, once you've identified these types of traits in the people around you, what do you do next? You ask yourself, is this person healthy for me? That will help you to determine what to do next. Because again, even if you don't have a clear definition, You see traits in this person that is toxic to you. You see traits in this person that is destructive to your well-being, that's not in alignment with who you are or who you're trying to become. When you have to be careful what you say to someone because they may be triggered, because they may try to hurt you, especially if we're talking about the ones that are covert, right? They won't show you they're offended, but they will try to hurt you in an insidious, in a hidden way, right? They may try to sabotage you behind your back. You are not here to live a life in fear and having to always be guarded. That's not living. That is not healthy. And there's billions of people in this world, so you don't have to stay connected to people that are not healthy for you. So that is the focus. That is what you do when you start to identify these traits in people around you, is to just ask yourself, not are they narcissists, are they not? I hear people asking that question. Is this person really a narcissist? You don't need to go that deep. You just need to say, okay, this is what I see in this person, and now I have the authority to decide, is this person healthy for me to be around? Is this person healthy enough to be close to me, to be in my life, or to be connected to me at all? Guys, if you like this episode, if it resonated with you, if you feel like you have more clarity, you have some more direction, I would love to hear in the comments below. Also, go ahead and like and subscribe so that this episode can be shared with other women who also needs it. If you want to go deeper into this topic or any topics along narcissism, toxic relationships, and most importantly, emotional healing, go into the description box below to get access to the private membership group where we can get connected. You can get connected also to other women who are committed to the healing process. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode today, and I'll see you in the next one.